drugs, and they didn't find them. Right. But one of the prisoners from this stole his pound cake from his kitchen. And they told him, they turned the video off, like, either right before or right after.
We'll call the meeting to order.
He's around.
We will. Pop, 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 pop. Well, some of us are more aggressive than others.
Welcome to Nixa City Hall. This video is going to provide you with an overview of how the City of Nixa conducts City Council meetings. We encourage everyone to attend and participate in City Council meetings. This is part of how democracy works at the local level, listening to the perspectives of subject matter experts, city residents, and other community members helps our elected leaders make more informed decisions. Before we start the meeting, let's review some of Council's rules of order. These rules help us make sure our meetings are orderly and efficient, while protecting the ability of everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Please be respectful of the person speaking and hold your own comments until it is your turn to speak. Presenters are invited by the Council to provide information during the meeting to the Council. These are informational presentations only, and nothing will be voted on at the time of the presentation. Presenters are not time limited. There are 2 times when all other visitors will be able to speak to Council. The first is during the visitors section of the agenda, and the second is during any public hearing regarding an agenda item. During the visitors section, anyone may speak to Council about any topic, whereas the public hearings regarding specific agenda items allow you to make comments for Council to consider before they make a decision on that topic. Whether you wish to speak during any public hearing or the visitors section, the following rules of order will apply. 1. Only one person should speak at a time. Be respectful of the person speaking and wait to speak until it is your turn. 2. Anyone speaking must do so from the podium and speak into the microphone. 3. You must first state your name and provide your address in writing to the city clerk before beginning your comments. 4. All speakers will be given 5 minutes to make their comments to the Council. The mayor or Council may have additional questions for speakers after this 5-minute period. 5. All comments should be addressed to the mayor and Council. 6. If you have questions about existing city processes, programs, or policies, or if you need assistance from staff on any issue, please contact City Hall during normal business hours and we'll be happy to assist you or answer any questions you may have at that time. The public hearing is designed to provide the public an opportunity to provide testimony and information to the mayor and council regarding the decisions they may be considering. Keep in mind this meeting will be recorded and live streamed with video and audio. Therefore, all comments relevant to this meeting must be spoken into a microphone, otherwise video viewers will not be able to hear you. In the case of a closed session or technical difficulties, some meetings or portions of meetings may not actually be recorded or streamed. The use of cell phones during council meetings is discouraged, so please silence all devices now. Thank you for watching, and thank you for engaging with the City of Nixa. The meeting will begin shortly.
Jared Giddens.
Here.
Aaron Peterson.
Here.
Darlene Graham.
Here.
Matt Ogden.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove any items from tonight's consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to approve.
So made.
Second. Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Jared Giddens.
Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Seth Baylog.
Yes.
And we'll move on to our service awards. Braden Carr, 5 years with the Water Department. Travis. Let's pick somebody.
Sorry about that. Jason couldn't make it today. He's actually up in Columbia at an MPUA meeting learning about water. Braden is with him, so he couldn't make it as well. But Braden Carr transferred over to the water department about 18 months ago. He started working for the city as a meter reader. He showed a lot of interest during that time with working for the water department and started hanging out with the guys and learning as much as he could in the hopes that an opening would show itself and present itself and give him an opportunity to move over to the water department. He showed a lot of initiative. He was very interested in the work, and so when we did have an opening, we jumped at the opportunity to bring him over to the water department. As I mentioned, he's been there about 18 months now, and he's done a fantastic job, and he has been an integral part of the crew. So we're very happy to have him, and feel fortunate that he was wanting to come over and stay with the city of Nixa and continue his career and move up in the world, move up to the water department. So we're very happy to have him. And I'm sorry he couldn't make it this evening.
Yeah, that's all right. He's out working hard for us. Congratulations. All right, we'll move on to our awards and recognition section. Jimmy.
Mayor, Council, I'm going to move the order of the awards around just a little bit, so you'll notice that it's a little different than on the agenda. I'm going to move the procurement award to the third award, and that will make sense in just a second. So, but tonight I would like to recognize our finance department for multiple awards that were given. The first award that the City of Nixa has received was awarded on March 10th, and it's a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting through the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, or as we know as the GFOA. This award is for the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year that ended in December 31st, 2021. The City of Nixa received this award due to the demonstration of a constructive spirit of full disclosure that clearly communicates our financial story in efforts to motivate potential users and user groups to read the report. This certificate of achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. And I'm going to go ahead and read the second award, and then we'll recognize the finance department for both of those. The second award tonight is also from the GFOA and was awarded March 20th. The City of Nixa received the Outstanding Achievement in Popular Financial Reporting, or as we know as the PAFR Award, for its popular annual financial report for the fiscal year that ended December 31st, 2021. The award represents a significant achievement and is only given to those that also submit its annual comprehensive financial report and receive the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the current fiscal year. Each report submitted is reviewed by judges who evaluate the report based on reader appeal, understandability, distribution methods, creativity, and other elements. So tonight, please join me in thanking our financial staff for all their hard work and efforts in ensuring accuracy and transparency. And then I'll go ahead and read the next award, and then we can take pictures for all three, if that'll work for you, Mayor. The third award tonight is from the American Council of Engineering Companies of Missouri, and is called the Qualifications-Based Selection, or QBS Award. This award was established to recognize the outstanding support of the qualifications-based selection procedures. The Nixa Public Works Department received this award for the policies and procedures the city has in place to aid in selecting firms to supply professional services which balances the needs of each type of project with the strengths of each firm that has submitted statements of qualifications to the city. The process ensures fairness to qualified firms and the highest quality work for the taxpayers. Although this is a team effort, and as I said earlier, is made out to the Public Works Department, Stephanie Ewing, our purchasing clerk, is the reason one of the main reasons we received this award. That's a very good picture, Stephanie. Man. No, I don't even know where I was now after that. So, again, this is a team effort, but Stephanie, you're our purchasing clerk. It is her diligent work in following the policies and procedures that make this award possible. So tonight, I want to recognize Stephanie's work along with Public Works Department in ensuring our procurement is fair and consistent. Thank you. Fantastic. And then I have the awards over here, Mayor, if you'd like to.
Oh, sure.
Take a picture.
So will we all get glamour shots eventually, or is that just her? Okay, all right.
High school graduation. You can hold them all.
Downfall.
Congratulations to Jennifer and Stephanie and their entire team over there and doing such a great job of keeping us financially accountable and making sure that we're as transparent as possible with our financial dealings. I appreciate that very much. All right, we'll move on to our proclamations. We haven't done a proclamation in a little bit. So we haven't done a proclamation in a little bit. I think we forgot, yeah. All right. Whereas autism is a bio-neurological developmental disability that affects the social, communication, and behavioral skills of those affected by it, and whereas in 2021, the CDC reported that approximately 1 in 44 children in the U.S. is diagnosed with autism and is reported to occur in all racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic groups, and whereas autism impacts the normal development of the brain in the areas of social interaction, communication skills, and cognitive function, individuals with autism typically have difficulties in verbal and nonverbal communication, social interactions, and leisure or play activities. And whereas currently there's no cure for autism, though with early intervention and treatment, the diverse symptoms related to autism can be greatly improved. And whereas the City of Nixa values our citizens with autism and their families, and we strive to promote autism awareness, inclusion, and acceptance. And whereas at this time we take the opportunity to highlight the unique abilities, strengths, and needs of our community members with autism. Now, therefore, I, Brian Steele, Mayor for the City of Nixa, do hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2023 as Autism Awareness Day in the City of Nixa. We have our friends from CC Links here tonight to accept the proclamation.
Short people here. Mayor and Councilman, thank you so much for acknowledging our individuals with developmental disabilities across Christian County. I am the Executive Director of CC Links. My name is Andrea Swope. We have been providing case management services in Christian County for the past 10 years under CC Links. We have grown in the past 10 years from about 135 individuals to now serving over 600 individuals across the county with developmental disabilities. Of those 600, about half of them have some type of an autism diagnosis. So that's a lot of folks. We have a long way to go. It's estimated that there's about 1,500 individuals across the county with a developmental disability. And right now, we're only serving 600. So you can still see there's a lot more out in the community that we could help. You guys know just as well as we do that we are the fastest growing county, one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Missouri. We anticipate those numbers will continue to grow as the autism diagnosis continues to grow as well. We do a lot of advocacy and case management services throughout the county. Our individuals that we support, we go to IEP meetings, we help get connected to community resources as well as state funding that's available. So we are here through a lifetime. We start at age 3 and go through the life cycle with our individuals. So we can continue working through every transition of their life and help them get the supports and the services that they need. We do a lot of services within our office. We have life skills programming. We do cooking classes, driver's ed classes, healthy relationships and socialization type classes. We have CC Rhythm, which is our performing percussion group. So if hopefully you've had a chance to see them out at the fireworks show, we usually support that. Nixa Nest event will be there again. So I highly recommend you come out, come and see what we're doing. We have an office right outside of Nixa on Highway CC, down off of Commercial Road. We'd love to have you come out and take a look at our building, take a look at, meet our staff and some of the folks that we support. We will continue to keep providing these services as long as we're needed. We try to work our way out of a job, but unfortunately more people come in. So we just continue to strive and help our individuals live the best, happy, best quality of life that they can. So thank you again for this proclamation. I appreciate your support.
Thank you very much. Thanks for all you do for everyone in the county.
Have a great day.
All right, we'll move on to the visitor section. Becca.
Ron Sanders.
Am I the only one? Again? Hi,
Probably so.
my name's Ron Sanders. Oh, you're not going to do it? And I live at,
976 Glen Oaks Drive.
Let's not make that a thing. Thank you.
it's a little bit of comic relief there. I titled my little card, You Can't Always Get What You Want. There are some things up on the ballot here in a week, and you guys may be flush with some extra money to spend, and y'all might have to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out how to do things without a 3/4 cent raise. That's going to be a tough thing if it goes one way, and it's going to be a pretty scary thing if it goes the other, because, you know, government knows how to spend money. Government doesn't always know how to save money. I'm more concerned about the recall standards changing. So I do hope that that one does fail. It is Prop 3, and it is the least of our worries. I don't normally talk about a lot of big politics here. I usually keep it small, but right now in the state of Missouri, the Code of Federal Registers, or whatever it's called, is trying to be changed. They're trying to change the definition of currency from the dollar bill to electronic currency. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the central bank digital currency, but South Dakota just vetoed that change, and I hope that our state does too. Otherwise, we'll be one step closer to the government getting rid of the dollar and forcing us into digital currency, which would be tracked. Every transaction would be trackable and tracked and everything. It'd make it pretty hard for anybody to have freedom, and that's a rough one. We also have a lot of people worried about the elections coming up and using machines with elections. Are they hooked up to the internet? Are they not hooked up to the internet? When we go to the polls, we want to know that our election is secure and it's honest and everything is counted honestly. You know, that we want integrity in our elections. And one of the bright ideas that some people have in our state and in our local community is to go back to hand counting. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but it is a pretty big push across our state, and some people who are going to be running for governor next year are pushing for hand counting. It is kind of crazy, but I'd like to hear both sides. Tonight, I'd also like to be a representative for the Christian County Republican Central Committee for the upcoming Lincoln Days on the 29th of April. We will have speakers like Bill Eigel and Shane Scholler and Paula Brumfeld to talk about election integrity and hand counting. We will have a nice man named Cody Smith, who's on the banking committee up there in Jeff City, to talk about the central bank digital currency and the threat it is a real threat in our Congress, in our legislature right now, where if we sign off on this, we would automatically be bound to the federal government if they make that change. All this will be talked about. I don't know if we'll be able to video it or not, but a lot of very good information will be there if y'all can make it. Everybody's invited. ccrccmo.com is the website, and I do hope that everybody hears me on this, because it's not just a pitch. I really do want everybody to be aware that these huge changes are trying to be snuck behind our back. And being a veteran who is 100% disabled, that means all of my subsistence would come through in digital currency only. And at that point, the federal government would own me and everything that I do. They would know everything that I did with my money. They'd be able to track every place I go. They would be able to know everything that I do. And eventually, if they got sick and tired of me exercising my freedom, they could just shut me down by taking all my money away. I'm putting on my tinfoil hat here for a second. Everybody thinks that, but it's real, it's happening, and it's coming at us without us even knowing. So our elections here next week are very important. But as soon as those are over, I think everybody should start digging in a little bit and find out what our federal government has in store for us in the next year and a half. Thank you. ccrcmo.com.
CCRCC.
Yep, Christian County Republican Central Committee. You can buy tickets there.
Hey, Ron, on the 29th, what's the location of that event?
It'll be held here in Nixa at the Nixa Event Center down there off of AA.
Ozarks Event Center.
Sorry?
Ozarks.
Oh, the Ozarks Event
Ozarks.
Center, that's
Call it-
right.
It's in Nixa, but it's called the
It's in Nixa, Ozarks Event Center. It is a long one. It'll go from 2 till 9. We're waiting for a keynote speaker, but it might be big, it might not. I don't know. We'll see. But we have a whole bunch of speakers. I think we have 8 lined up. A lot of subject matter experts to bring a lot of very important information about elections and about this digital currency stuff that, may make our lives miserable or something.
Thank you.
Is that all you got? All right, we will close the visitor section and move on to our first reading of ordinances.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2023-16, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Missouri Public Utility Alliance Resource Services Commission for certain materials and services that may be requested in the future.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Passage of this ordinance authorizes the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Missouri Public Utility Alliance and the Resource Services Commission, which is a 501c3 arm of Missouri Public Utility Alliance. The main reason to enter this agreement is to have the opportunity in the future to be able to purchase some services or materials through the MPUA Resource Services Commission. It's a new program that's come out of the MPUA strategic plan, and because the service list and material list can be so broad, they've developed what's called a master services agreement, and we've entered a couple of these in the past. This MSA does not bind the city to do any work with the MPUA. Rather, it establishes the general terms and conditions that will apply if we do enter into a project services agreement. So what we would do is, say we wanted to have something tested, like a substation transformer tested. We don't have the resources to do that ourselves, and they do. We could have them provide us a project services agreement, which would lay out the scope of what we're looking for, the work to be finished, and a price. We could enter that, and that would just establish basically what they're going to do and how much it's going to cost. The master services agreement would govern everything else to do with that contract: liability, insurance, payment terms, that type of thing. So that's what this master services agreement would do. It also, one of the other things that they're working on is procurement. So as we've discussed in here before, there are a lot of issues as far as procurement of materials right now and supplies. They're looking at doing some bulk purchasing. That way they can go straight to the manufacturer and purchase items, say poles or fire hydrants. If there's a shortage of those, and they could get an order through the factory because they're making a factory size order, that would allow us all to be able to go in. When I say us all, the member cities that enter these master service agreements could be able to join in those purchases and hopefully be able to do that faster and potentially save some money as well. What we'll do internally, as you well know, we have our own purchasing policies, and so part of that, we can join in to piggyback contracts. So in other words, if Carthage were to go out and purchase services through a company such as a meter tech to do testing on water meters. They set up that contract and they procure they procure whoever that vendor is with the same way we do, by bidding and then utilizing that to enter the contract. That meets our purchasing policy as well, and we can piggyback off of their contract and just use that person at the price that's been quoted for them. So this would work in the same way in some instances. In other instances, it may not, and so we may take this information and bid against that from the private sector. So we'll use it as a tool. It's just another tool we can use to save some money or get a higher quality for the same money. So, but anyway, that's the recommendation of staff, is to go ahead and enter this. It won't cost us anything to enter it. We can exit it at any time. And then what we would do is we would just, as things come along, we could fall back on this for purchases. Any question?
Any questions? Thank you, Doug. And we'll open up the public hearing if anyone would like to speak to this item. And close the public hearing. Move on to the next item.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-17, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2023 annual budget to appropriate funds for the wastewater collection inflow and infiltration reduction program.
Mayor and Council, this is a budget amendment request resulting from the timing of the receipt of an invoice for work that was completed in the 2022 calendar year. Our I&I budget is a yearly budget that we put forward for the inflow and infiltration program that the city has established. In layman's terms, this is the lining that we put on our sewer lines and manholes to extend the life of those structures and also reduce the amount of groundwater that enters our sewer system. Last year, we completed a program for approximately $227,000 of the $250,000 that was budgeted to accommodate the lining of several manholes and sewer mains throughout town. Although the work was completed in November, the invoicing was not received until after the close of the 2022 budget. So the payment of those funds came out of the 23 budget. This year, we did budget $250,000 to continue that program. The $250,000 would accommodate approximately 900 vertical feet of manhole lining. The collection staff has identified 137 manholes that they would like to use this money for, and are requesting a budget amendment to return that money into the 2023 budget so they can continue their I&I efforts. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Probably isn't a question for you, it's probably a question for Jennifer, but we seem to have had a lot of these this year, where more than we've had in prior years at least. Is that just, we just got a lot of bills in the last 2 weeks of December, or?
You know, I every year I tell staff, make sure if anything needs to be rolled over that we take that into consideration. A lot of times, like you said, the work was done. The assumption is made we get the invoice and we don't. So there seems to be a lot, I agree, but that's just one of those things that.
Well, be a little meaner next year. Make sure that, or this year, get them all to turn them in early.
Did you all hear that? Yeah. You gave me permission.
I can't do anything, but it's all right. Any other questions for Travis? Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing on this item. And close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussion on this item? Oh, all right, move on to the next one.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-18, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement with Enterprise Developments LLC to warrant the completion of certain public improvements.
Mayor and Council, this is a warranty agreement that is being presented to you on behalf of the developer of Copperleaf Phase 6. During the construction of Copperleaf Phase 6, there was a stretch of roadway, approximately 500 feet in length, that was paved by the developer absent an approved city inspection of the subgrade necessary in order to allow for that asphalt to be placed. During the course of construction and the week of the installation of the asphalt, the developer had called for the necessary inspections on 2 occasions. Both occasions, the inspection was conducted and the subgrade failed. So at the end of that week, he wanted to proceed with asphalt installation on this stretch of roadway. He was informed that he could not until he received a approved inspection. He continued anyways and went ahead and paved the roadway absent that city inspection. So at that point, we were unwilling to accept that roadway because we were unsure whether or not the subgrade was suitable or was not suitable. Our last testing of it, it was not suitable, so we were unwilling to accept it at that time. Not wanting to pull that pavement out and to properly check the subgrade, he is requesting that he be allowed to provide a 5-year warranty on those improvements, extending the traditional 1-year warranty to a 5-year period. In addition, he is providing a letter of credit in the amount of $110,147.21, which has been the agreed upon amount that would be necessary for removal and replacement of that asphalt, plus a 4% per year escalator or inflationary increase placed on that amount to accommodate the full warranty period of 5 years. The developer's attorney did draft the agreement that is presented to you. Mr. Woodman and staff reviewed that agreement and have offered that we are in agreement or can accept the language that is being presented. But the agreement is offered for your consideration from the developer of Copperleaf Phase 6 in order to allow him to move forward with platting of his development absent that approved inspection or that approved section of roadway, with the understanding that he would provide the monies and escrow necessary to remove and replace that section and extend that warranty from 1 year to 5 years.
So in your experience, and I would assume you probably haven't dealt with this very much, if this roadway was to fail, you think it would happen in 5 years, or is this going to be like a TV warranty where you get it for 2 years and it dies in 2 years and 1 day?
Typically, the worst period for a roadway is the height of summer, July and August, especially during the construction period of homes, because you have a lot of vehicles that are impacting that roadway that are above and beyond your normal local traffic. In other words, you have lumber trucks, you have concrete trucks, you have delivery of vehicles of all sorts. So I don't want to say I can guarantee that if it was going to fail, it would do it in 5 years. But hopefully, if it does make it 5 years, it will continue to make it the full life cycle of a roadway, which we hope to get 20 years out before we have to do any repaving of it. So I know I'm skating around your question. I don't want to provide any guarantees because, like you said, like a TV warranty on year 5 and 30 days, we could have a complete failure of it. I just can't guarantee it one way or another.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Do we provide any penalties for contractors or developers who just decide they don't want to? Because in this case, he wouldn't have a penalty. He just didn't do what he was supposed to do.
Correct.
Didn't pass it, and then gets out completely from having to pay anything.
Yes, no, the penalty would be we don't have any penalty phase. We just don't have the ability to accept the improvements. So in other words, at this point, the developer still owns that roadway. He has had, through the final platting of the subdivision, he provides the city with an offer of dedication of all public improvements, including roadways, stormwater installation, water, sewer, electric installation. All those are dedicated over to the city for ownership, operation, and maintenance at the time of final platting. So absent an agreement, the city would not be able to accept that roadway in its current condition without him first removing that asphalt, going through the processes necessary to get a suitable subgrade, and reinstalling the asphalt, at which time we could accept that roadway as an offer of dedication through the plat. So no, there's not really a penalty phase other than the penalty would be not to accept his improvements. We will not accept them for ownership and operation. This agreement is what he has provided to you in lieu of actually removing and replacing that asphalt material.
Real quick question. If it does fail in 5 years, is he just up to pay for it and we fix it, or is he fixing it?
In the agreement, there's some provisions to where he would have a certain time period, I believe it's within 30 days of notification, to make a determination whether or not he was going to do the necessary repairs to the roadway, or whether or not the city would utilize the escrow funds to provide the necessary improvements. So he's got a little window to do them himself before we take over the project and fix them with the monies he's provided.
So you said escrow funds, but the documentation said letter of credit.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. He's provided a letter of credit to escrow those funds. I apologize. He's not providing actual
Right.
cash escrow, but it's a letter of credit that'll be kept on file and is made out to the benefit of the city of Nixa.
I might have some concerns with that over, maybe we should look at having them issue a bond instead, which would then be guaranteed to us, where a letter of credit, if the bank, with the issues with the current banking system, if the bank were to fail, that letter of credit, or his business were to fail, they may no longer extend that letter of credit to him in 5 years from now, where we could do whatever the bond that we normally do with, we have some sort of bond that we normally do, which would cost him money. I mean, he's not going to like that idea, but it would cost him money to guarantee the bond, but.
Right. Actually, that was the route he preferred to take, and we were not comfortable with that because the performance bond is an insurance policy. It's not a guaranteed monetary funding source. So if there was an issue, we would have to petition the bonding company, and they would have to assign a case number and determine what amount of those fundings they would provide us, if any, based on their investigation of the issue. Whereas a letter of credit is, it is from a financial institution, but it is a guarantee that those monies will be available for that full 5-year period. In this case, through July, I believe, of 2028. So absolutely, I understand what you're saying, Mayor, but we were actually not in favor of the bond over the letter of credit.
Okay.
So when you have to repair the road ultimately, potentially after 5 years, would you have to then replace that substructure?
If we need to make those repairs, yes. Yeah, if there is a failure. Right now, the issue is not the asphalt, it's the subgrade under the asphalt.
Right.
If that fails, then the asphalt will fail because it does not have a suitable compaction in order to hold up. So it's called pumping, where the road will actually pump, which will allow that asphalt to spider crack and alligator crack, and of course, ultimately fail completely. So yes, the only way to fix it would be to remove the asphalt, make the necessary repairs to that subgrade under the asphalt, and then replace that asphalt on top of it.
My biggest concern with this is that it kind of opens the door. I know it's the first incident that we've run across since my tenure. I don't remember anything like this yet, but who's to say that other developers are going to start thinking that, asking for forgiveness is better than asking for permission. That's my only concern.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
So are we at a point where we could go back and voice our concerns to him? Maybe
Yeah.
a 10-year warranty instead of
We
a
can
5-year
negotiate
warranty?
that, or we can just reject the idea of doing a warranty agreement in the first place. I mean, as Travis pointed out, we currently don't have authority to accept the subdivision, which means he's not able to sell lots until the subdivision is brought up to city standards. So this was presented as an opportunity to provide a developer-friendly approach and see if it was staff was able to get on board with it. I've been very clear with the developer on this. This will ultimately be a decision for the council to make, and they may not support the decision. So we can go back and renegotiate with direction from the council, or we can just say we're not going to entertain a warranty agreement at all. It's at the discretion of the council. I'm comfortable with either approach that we take on this, because as it stands right now, the subdivision is not compliant with the city's technical specification manual, which is approved by ordinance, which is why this is being brought to you as an ordinance. because it will be effectively waiving that requirement in lieu of receiving the letter of credit.
Okay. We'll think on it. We've got a couple weeks and see what we want to do. All right. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you, and we'll be available for questions anytime you want to reach out. We'd be happy to visit with you about it. I know it's a different kind of situation that we're dealing with here, so thank you.
Thank you, Travis. And we'll open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further questions or discussion? All right. And move on to the next one.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-19, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa rezoning the real property generally located at the 1400 block of West Mount Vernon Street from a general commercial GC district to a high-density multifamily residential R3 district.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Excuse me. This is for a rezoning of approximately 1.87 acres of property along the 1400 block of West Mount Vernon Street. This will look familiar to most of you as this was read to City Council in February of this year. The property is currently zoned general commercial. The property owner is requesting a rezone to high-density multifamily. The property in question is Lot 12 of the Auburn Heights subdivision. As previously mentioned, this was read to council in February. It received a 3-to-1 vote in the yes favor, but due to council rules, it requires 4 yes votes in order to pass. So council has requested that this reappear in front of hopefully a more full council. The property is currently vacant except for a large detention basin that is there on site to serve the residential subdivision to the south, and then also this property in question. To the west is a legal nonconforming single-family home on general commercial property. To the east is the Nixa Public Schools score building, which is also on general commercial zone property. To the south is single-family zone property, and to the north is Highway 14. This property does show on the future land use designation map, which is adopted as part of this comprehensive plan. It does show that this specific piece of property should be zoned for high-density multifamily. This property does have a shared access point onto Highway 14, which is 20 feet on this property and then 20 feet on the property to the west, for a total of 40 feet for access point onto Highway 14. Again, this is a MoDOT route, so the actual design and construction of that will have to be approved by, or any other additional requirements will be required through MoDOT, not through the City of Nixa. This property does fall within the Oakmont Lift Station drainage basin, which, as we all are aware, is at current capacity, and we are in the process of redesigning it and moving it a little further south so that it is larger and can handle a lot more flow. Other than that, the electric and water is of sufficient capacity to support residential development on this site. Another hang-up for this project would be that electric transformers, we are still hearing that they are 18 to 24 months out for the lead time. As previously mentioned, this property does contain the stormwater detention basin for the Auburn Heights subdivision, which is the single family to the south and this property. It does discharge into the MoDOT right-of-way and then floats west down Highway 14 to where a low point where it does cross over to the north. Current density standards for R3 zoning is 14.52 dwelling units per acre. For this site, that would mean a maximum of 27 dwelling units, but this site does have a lot of constrictions to it due to multiple easements on the east side of the property, the stormwater detention basin, and then the shared access easement on the west side. This was read at the February Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Multiple property owners to the south did come and voice their concerns about the potential rezone. After the meeting, the property owner did talk to a lot of those property owners and basically got them on board with what his intentions were for the property. With all things considered, the Planning and Zoning Commission did vote 4-1 to recommend approval to City Council. Staff does recommend approval of this rezone due to the future land use designation map showing it should be zoned as R3 multifamily. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Any questions? Nope. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item. And close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussion on this item?
For anyone who doesn't know, that was when Matt and I were both gone, and I asked that it be brought back because I do feel that, one, comprehensive plan stated that that type of zoning should be allowed, and if you really go over and look at it, I don't feel like it is a great spot for any commercial business. I feel like what he's wanting to do there is, I mean, it fits the comprehensive plan and it is fair and it goes along with everything that's around there. So that would be just wanted you guys to know the reason that I asked for it to be brought back. So.
Nothing else? We'll move on to the next one.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-20, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 22, Article 4, Section 22-310 of the Nixa City Code to amend the implementation date for the energy cost adjustments applied to the city electric rates.
As Becky just said, this council bill proposes a modification to the latest electric rate ordinance, and it has to do with the dates of implementation for the energy cost adjustment. The original ordinance was passed early '22, established an annual ECA to absorb cost changes due to energy supply and transportation cost. The currently adopted wording provides any difference from the base wholesale energy cost rate shall be applied monthly to electric bills beginning in February through January of the next calendar year. Because of the time needed for us to receive all the prior year bills and have all of the market energy adjustments figured and verified, some of those can come easily 2 months after the fact. So that's what I was talking about there. We don't really have enough information to accurately figure the adjustment until at least mid-February. Any difference must be, and then, so when we make those, any difference must be presented to City Council in the form of a resolution for approval, which could take us into early March. So we made that modification late in the electric rate ordinance discussions, and we added it in, so we would bring that to you as a resolution, which actually I'll be bringing one to you later this evening. My recommendation here is to change the implementation date to take place along with the bills to customers beginning in April of each year and run through March of the next year. That wording that would make this change is on page 10 of the electric rate ordinance that was in your packet. This does not change any of the rates or adopt an actual energy adjustment charge. It just strictly changes the dates for the implementation of an ECA if there is one.
Any questions?
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Doug. And we'll open up the public hearing. We really have to do this just because of Mr. Sanders, don't we? Because you're the one that proposed the idea that we have the change to be required a resolution. And so that's why we have to push this back. So, yeah. And we will close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussion? All right, move on to the last one.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-21, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the execution of several agreements related to certain solar power electric generating facility.
This one's a little longer. Passage of this council bill would authorize the mayor to execute 3 agreements to purchase power from the Nixa Solar Farm through the Missouri Joint Municipal Electric Utility Commission, which is currently doing business as the Missouri Electric Commission. So throughout this, I'll refer to them as the MEC. The MEC, it's actually, like I mentioned, it's the former, what we used to call Mudgmuck of the Missouri Public Utility Alliance. They're in the process of purchasing numerous municipal solar farms around the state. I believe there are 12 or 13 of them, which are owned by Gardner Capital and/or MC Power. I believe they're all owned by some form of that. This transaction, if they were to purchase it, necessitates that Nixa would enter a new power purchase agreement along with some other supporting documents. The documents attached to this item include a termination agreement, a new power purchase agreement, and an interconnection and operating agreement. I'd also provided you a spreadsheet with anticipated revenues and expenditures for the project, and those are just estimates I'm throwing out to kind of get us to some form of continued discussion. If you have some questions, we can go into that. The termination agreement is fairly straightforward. It basically just ends the agreement that we're in today with Nixa Solar LLC. The new interconnection agreement is an agreement for the connection of the two systems and how operational responsibilities are designated. It's very similar to another interconnection agreement that we have with Southwest Power Pool on the transmission system to receive power across the transmission system. It provides a detail of various assets involved, where the facility tie points are made, which is the point of energy delivery and transfer, and how operations are conducted through the life of the agreement. There's no cost related to this agreement, and the term is indefinite, usually taking place in conjunction with a power purchase agreement. The power purchase agreement is the main agreement for the purchase of solar energy from MEC, and which is the main focus of what I'm going to be visiting about. This agreement is similar in some ways to the previous PPA, with exception of the term and how the cost is allocated and billed. We project that this PPA will provide overall larger savings than the previous PPA. Under the new one, I've estimated that cost will exceed revenues through the first 7 or 8 years. You can see that on the spreadsheet. As far as cash in and cash out. Around year 8, that cash flow then starts to turn positive and eventually making its way to approximately a $2.7 million savings by the end of the term in 2047. Now that savings is for the power purchases itself. We'll still have savings in the transmission cost because that comes in behind the meter, just as it always has. So those expected savings will still be in place. Monthly billing for power will be just as it has in the past. We'll provide MEC with the revenue meter readings. They'll bill us for the power based on the rates that we've seen in our other rate schedule. MEC will use these proceeds to pay all the fixed and variable costs. Every 6 months, we'll also have a true-up of any under or overcharge for the period. We will pay a per kilowatt hour, per megawatt hour price for the amount of energy that we're purchasing. We'll pay some capacity cost. What we're actually paying for is we're actually paying Missouri Electric Commission for their expense. In other words, their operational expense, the bond expense to pay off the bonds for the purchase, and that type of thing. So there could be, and especially in the early years, there could be times where some of those costs go above what we're actually paying for the power, and so there would be a true-up cost that we would get billed for. Like Nixa, the Missouri Electric Commission is a not-for-profit municipal association that acts on behalf of members. In this case, they would be the new owner and operator on our behalf. Because we're the sole customer, MEC can't recover any Nixa solar farm costs from any other MEC members. We're the sole customer. The agreement provides for all the costs that we will be responsible for, including those not previously a part of the current agreement. In addition, new other revenue can also be realized, which includes the sale of solar renewable energy credits, or RECs. You may have heard that term. That have been previously kept by the owner for their own resale value. These revenues are not reflected in the spreadsheet you've been provided because that is unknown at this time. It's not something that I've been very familiar with. I've been trying to come up to speed on it, but it's my understanding that these RECs, which are sold actually out on they're a market-based sale, can be fairly lucrative. Prices ranging in the neighborhood from $10 to over $300 a piece, and these RECs are equal to a megawatt hour of production. So I'm not sure how all that plays out, what the costs are to actually sell those, or anything else. That's something I'll have to get into and provide more information later. But it's my understanding that there will be some relief there, and that of course would turn around and help with these expenses as well, because no different than all the costs being our responsibility, all the revenues would as well. The cost for the project includes 100% of the fixed and variable cost, as I mentioned earlier. Fixed costs include the debt service payments, land lease payments, and any other fixed costs associated with an operations and maintenance agreement. Variable costs include reasonable costs associated with administration, ownership, maintenance, and decommissioning of the solar farm that would be at the end of its life, and any other management of the RECs, and as well as restoration of the site in accordance with the terms of a lease upon the closing of the facility. That solar farm will remain on leased property, at least for now. Maybe at some point in the future they'll be able to purchase that, or we would be able to purchase that, but for now, what I understand is it will remain as a lease, and we know what those numbers are. They're also included in that spreadsheet, what that annual lease cost is. The other thing about the other requirements within that lease is that at the end of the life, when the project is over, that stuff needs to be removed and the land needs to be restored back to the pasture that it was before. So that's an unknown, what we call a variable cost. It's an unknown cost that's out there. And at this point, with the length of this agreement, it's out there until at least 2047. So that's a long, long ways off. With this new power purchase agreement under ownership of MEC, we would have more input on operations of the system, and could do some of the O&M ourselves to help keep costs down. An operating committee will be formed of representatives of MEC and Nixa to plan operational functions as well as any future capital investments that may arise. The term of the agreement is somewhat open-ended, but no sooner than Nixa's reimbursement of all MEC's project costs, including the remaining debt service, operational, and other costs associated with decommissioning and restoration of the site. Based on debt service, because the debt service will be 25 years, we anticipate the agreement to be at least that long, and are presenting this information, the spreadsheet information, based on that. However, it could go longer. If you get out closer to year 2047, it looks like that the panels are still in good shape, it's still producing well, or maybe the operators at that time may want to get together and the city get together and they may want to purchase new panels, renew the panels, and keep the thing going. So it could go for however long. I'm sure that the racks will last a long time. After the term of the debt service, the project may continue. Although it will most likely, we would have to come back to City Council and discuss new pricing terms. And that would be, of course, based on those new costs. Our expected energy portfolio cost reduction, in addition to the avoidance of transmission cost, as I noted earlier, is approximately $2.7 million by the end of the debt term. As you can see from the spreadsheet, overall costs are higher initially compared to our existing rate schedule, but they begin to lessen about year 8. What I haven't mentioned so far is if we don't enter the agreement with Missouri Electric Commission, what would take place. In that case, Missouri Electric Commission would probably just stop their pursuit to go ahead and purchase it. They have not done a final purchase yet. If they don't have us as a customer, there's no reason for them to be involved and to make that purchase. However, if they do not purchase it, it is going to sell. Mark Gardner's selling all of his solar farms, and it's going to sell to somebody, whether it be a NextEra or a private group. Somebody's going to actually own that. My concern there is, of course, an additional unknown risk, because if a private company owns it, we have no say in the operations, and then so therefore we don't, have any say in the outcome or the output. They could let it go downhill for a ways, and we wouldn't be able to get as much power out of it. We could see higher cost, although we would have to agree to a rate schedule at some point under a new power purchase agreement. The other thing that would go away would be, well, what we have today. We have no option to have those RECs, those environmental attributes today. So that's a new thing that would come with the Missouri Electric Commission. We wouldn't see that with a private owner. That's a lot of the private owners, that's what their investment is. They're investing to be able to get those RECs because they're anticipating that market to raise in the future. The other question that may come up, because I've actually heard it a couple of times, is why don't we buy the facility? Though we could, what we would need to do, one, is come up with about $17 million. That's about what that solar farm's going to cost, and that is without the land. So you would still have a land lease. That price does not include ownership of that land. You may be able to negotiate and buy that later. And at what price, I don't know. In addition to that, to the initial price, we do not have the resources or the personnel to operate the solar farm. We would need to contract at least a portion of the operations to somebody with the expertise to work on the electronic parts, the electronics and the equipment. So there are transformers out there, for lack of a better term, that turn that DC power that those panels produce into AC power, which is usable on our system. So all of that stuff, that's the type of thing we don't have the resources to do. Though I anticipate, like I mentioned, doing some direct maintenance of the facility to help control cost, Missouri Electric Commission has the resources available to cover all of these technical aspects, and they do have crews that can complete operations. Finally, there are options to purchase the facility in the future, though it's the power purchase agreement is open to the fact that we could get together if council decided in a few years down the road that they would like to purchase. We could go back to them and negotiate a purchase instead of a power purchase agreement to buy them out from their expense. My intent is to bring this back to you at the next meeting with a recommendation. So for tonight, I'll stop my talking, answer any questions you have, and if after tonight's meeting, because this is fairly complicated, if after tonight's meeting, don't hesitate to give me a shout. I'll be happy to visit with you on anything.
Any questions?
So I will say, first of all, Mr. Colvin, thanks for answering my roughly 82 points that I have on this thing, going over it. But one thing that I kind of wanted to add to this, and normally I would say this after visitor section, but just in case you need to tag on to this too, but and also going back to the first council bill that we had, being the liaison for Public Works, I've gotten to work with and meet with a lot of these people with MPUA, MEC, and I really like kind of the new concept that everyone's working towards for as far as like working together and maybe get us eventually in a position where if it continues to be a problem to get a lot of this equipment and services and things, it's something that we can utilize as a group for a cheaper price. So once you explain it literally is 82 things that I have on here, and just answering those questions, that made it a lot better. But I just kind of wanted to give everyone a little bit of background on that too, and I kind of meant to, and this is my fault, I meant to reach out to you guys prior to this meeting to kind of discuss the relationship between MPUA, MEC, and us, and Matt has gotten to be involved in some of those conversations recently, and it's very obvious that they want us to succeed and want to help us. So I think it's a good path to go down working with them.
I would agree. Working in the utility world, working together with other organizations is a good thing. We can lean on each other when we need help. So there is a lot of information here, and I've looked at it a lot, and I'm sure I will probably be reaching out to you in the future, talking about more of this.
I welcome any questions you have. I apologize I didn't get you this spreadsheet sooner.
You said you had just started reviewing the credits, the energy recovery credits?
Yes, sir.
So can you provide us some more information on that, what you think that might be for at the next meeting?
I will. I was going to reach out there's a gentleman at MPUA that does have a good handle on what those are because they are actually trading some of them. I think my biggest question is understanding how many potential wrecks involved with this solar farm. I don't know that number. I've read that it's equal to, however many megawatt hours are produced. However, I don't know if that's different for solar farms versus wind farms and how all of that goes. Because if that's the case, last year we purchased a little over 14,000 megawatt hours from that solar farm. And if they're going for even $10 a piece, that's a pretty good chunk of revenue to help supplement this. I'm seeing that some of them in certain areas are going for upwards of $300 and $400 a piece. Now that's just unbelievable based on that. And that's why my concern in putting any of that in this spreadsheet is off the table, because I just don't have a good enough feel for it. I didn't want to lead you down this path of roses and a lot of money and it's not there. So I will do that, Mayor. I'll come back with everything I can find out about those.
My other question, there is a line item for insurance, so I assume that we pay. I'd be interested to know in what contingencies that covers. So
Okay.
Do we, if it gets hit by a tornado and the entire thing's wiped out, it can't produce anything, in the old model, we didn't have to pay anything because if we didn't take it, we don't have to pay for it. But in this, I assume we would still be liable to pay the MEC for their debt service.
Correct.
So we would want to make sure that we're covered via the insurance or if just the whole thing stops working. That'd be good too.
Penny Speak is here. She has the attorney for MEC, has been working so close with Nick and myself on these agreements.
If you want, I can address it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll get out of your way.
Come on up. Yeah, come on up.
Come on up.
Penny Speak with Healy Law Offices, and we're general counsel for MEC. For the bonds that MEC will obtain to finance the solar farm, MEC will be mandated to keep sufficient insurance coverage to cover those assets. Just like when you buy your house and it's mortgaged, your mortgage company requires you to maintain homeowners insurance to cover it in case a tornado comes through. The city will have to continue to pay the debt servicing fees that you would be otherwise, but it would be incumbent on MEC to then take the insurance proceeds and restore the solar farm as quickly as possible back to the condition it was before. That answer?
Yep, thank you.
No, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Doug.
As I said, don't hesitate to shout if you come up with something.
Thanks, Doug.
And we will open up the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussion? All right. All right, we'll move on to second readings.
Second reading, Council Bill number 2023-14, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa approving the preliminary plat of the Willowbrook subdivision, generally located along the 700 block of South Elegant Drive, and authorizing certain city officials to take certain actions upon the filing of a final plat.
Mayor, council, good evening. This is the property owner of approximately 17.37 acres of undeveloped property along the 700 block of South Elegant Drive. Has submitted a preliminary plat for a proposed subdivision called Willowbrook. You may remember this property as it was rezoned in January of 2023. It went from R1 single family to R4 multifamily or two-family subdivision. The subdivision will consist of patio homes, so the layout's a little differently. There are only 47 buildable two-family lots there, but they are broken into an A and B side, so therefore there will be 47 structures built, but there will be 94 dwelling units in total, which is the max density for the site. The subdivision will be served by all Nixa utilities. It will have sidewalks on the waterline side of the road. Each road is being proposed as being built at 27 feet paved surface from back of curb to back of curb, all within a 50-foot right-of-way corridor, which is the standard for a local roadway. The subdivision will also create two common area lots, which the developer will dedicate for maintenance to a homeowners association. At the time of development, we will require a traffic impact study due to South Elegant being a secondary arterial, and that will just determine if there are any additional improvements that are needed to be made to that connection to South Elegant. This was read at the public hearing for the Planning and Zoning Commission in March. At that time, nobody approached the commission, but the commission did have some concerns about the two ingress-egress points being in the southern portion of the development. Code just requires two ingress-egress points. It doesn't specify the spacing or where in the development it needs to be. With all things considered, the commission voted 4-1 to recommend approval to City Council. Staff has reviewed the preliminary plat and find it to be in conformance with major subdivision rules and regulations for R4 subdivision, and staff does recommend approval. If you have any questions, please let me know. And there it is.
Any questions? Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
And we'll open up the public hearing. And close the public hearing. Any other questions or further discussion? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham, Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Seth Baylog,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Second reading, Council Bill number 2023-15, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa annexing approximately 2.23 acres of real property generally located at the northwest corner of the intersection of South Greg Road and West Glen Oaks Drive, zoning said property to R1 zoning district and amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 2-28 of the Nixa City Code.
Thank you. Mayor, Council, this is for an annexation of approximately 2 acres along South Gregg, or not along South Gregg, along West Glen Oaks Drive, excuse me. The property is currently 4 lots in the Spence addition to the Glen Oaks Estates subdivision, which was originally platted in 1987. Each lot in the Spence addition is approximately a half acre. The property is compact and contiguous to current city limits, the current city limits does run along the east, south, and west portions of this piece of property. The subject property currently only has an old well house on it. The surrounding land uses are single-family residential all around it. There was a previous residential structure that was located on Lot 4, which is at the intersection of Glen Oaks and South Gregg. That home was demolished by the current property owner earlier this year, or excuse me, early 2022. The subject property is served by West Glen Oaks Drive. The city will require an additional 10 feet of right-of-way along the north side of West Glen Oaks Drive to comply with local street right-of-way requirements. Again, that is just for the section of the property that is being annexed. The subject property can be served by all municipal services. They are available. There is a 6-inch water main on the south side of Glen Oaks Drive, which has adequate water pressure to serve the residential or the proposed residential lots. Sanitary sewer is located on the east side of South Gregg Road. It does have adequate capacity as it flows, I believe, directly to the treatment plant. There was the single-family home that was on Lot 4 was previously served by an outside electric co-op. If they were to choose to have Nixa Electric provides power for this property, it would the cost of extending those services would fall on the developer. Stormwater management, there is a large sinkhole that is present on this property. The development of the property will require stormwater management to conform with the city's regulations concerning development near karst topography. These regulations address both flooding and water quality concerns. This was held at the March 6th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, during which neighbors did voice their concerns. Some were concerned with the flooding issues related to the sinkhole, and also roadway width. A Planning and Zoning Commissioner did express concerns about annexing in a piece of property that was considered non-buildable due to the sinkhole. It is the intent of the property owner to come back with either a minor subdivision or possibly a major subdivision, depending on how many lots they may or may not be able to get on this property. But during that process, they plan to attach the sinkhole portion of this property to a buildable lot, so therefore it will be maintained by a property owner. With all these issues and concerns in mind, the commission did unanimously vote 5-0 to recommend approval to City Council. Staff does recommend approval of this annexation as it is compact and contiguous to current city limits.
Any questions?
So once this passes, they will bring this back to the city on discussion of subdividing those lots in a different way?
Correct, that is their intent, yes.
Okay.
So this is just an annexation, not a plat
Yeah.
for the actual lots?
Correct, this is just the annexation portion.
Yep.
And it's possible that it may come back in a minor subdivision, which is just reviewed and approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So it may not come back in front of the council.
So planning and zoning would make that decision where they could change the lot lines?
If they adjust it to just 3 lots or less, it will be considered a minor subdivision.
Okay.
To get rid of one of the current lots that they have and make it,
Well,
to
the
make it
current
bigger.
lot that
Yeah,
they're
just
talking
one
about
just
is-
got a big
it's
single
been
middle.
underwater all week. I
Yeah.
took pictures of it.
Can understand.
If I may add one more thing, this will be added to Council District 3.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier.
Any other questions?
What lift station will this use this? Would this be?
It does,
Oakmont
if
Heights.
it does not flow to the
Oh, it's
Oakmont.
gravity feed? Okay.
Yeah, it's a gravity.
I
If they
missed
can
that,
get it
sorry.
to the sewer line along the east side of South Gregg, it'll be gravity. But they'll have to lift it up out of their property as it does flow downhill to the sinkhole.
Okay. Yeah, I totally went right past it.
All right, thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
And we'll open a public hearing if you would like to speak to this item. And close the public hearing. I think any time that we can annex something that's currently completely surrounded by the city, that's a good thing for us.
So moved.
Hopefully, we can also get their electric service as well, get out some of the multiple poles and lines that we have running through that area.
Ryan, do I need to recuse myself because this is right across the street from my house?
Are you going to be financially benefited by this passing?
No, but I don't think it'll hurt me.
Well, then, no. I don't believe you have a conflict of interest. I don't know.
Okay.
Do you?
I don't think I
Mr.
do
Woodman?
either, so I just want to make sure.
Someone
Can you
want to
say
build
that
a
again?
subdivision in my backyard? I believe that we would have whatever right you wanted to vote for it.
I don't know any details about that, so I couldn't speak intelligently on that, but if.
I just asked. if
She lives
it-
directly across the
it's
street from this
Directly across
property.
the street from
Oh,
my
okay.
house. That's why I didn't know if I need to
believe that
recuse
was-
myself.
Well, in the future, if you have any kind of questions about conflicts of interest, you should talk to me about those ahead of time.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see it as a conflict of interest
No.
because
Well,
you're
we
not
wanted
going
it
to.
annexed in.
Yeah, I believe. All right, any other questions? All right, I'll accept a motion to
moved.
approve.
Second.
I didn't hear the first.
Sean and Seth. Roll call, please.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Seth Baylog.
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Jared Giddens.
Yes.
If we weren't allowed to vote on subdivisions in our own backyard, half of us would never get to vote on anything.
That's across the street from my house, but it's close enough.
Resolution number 2023-12, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the city's personnel code by modifying policy 7.1.17.
I didn't have a 7 in it. There we go. Good evening. So we're bringing our inclement weather policy to you. We had a few changes we wanted to make. It's not been updated in about 10 years because we have not used it in about 10 years. We have not closed the city due to weather until this winter, since 2010, I believe, for the full day. And so in looking at this, we were reading it and we had a lot of questions in regards to how it was worded for our employees. And so we just needed to clean it up a little bit. But also in going through this process, we opted to add in a late start. We think that would be beneficial in case the weather clears up by the afternoon or early morning. Jimmy could do a late start and we could come in later and we could still be open for business. So that's what all this is about.
How late would the late start be?
It's dependent. We didn't put a time frame in there just because if we did 2 hours, in 2 hours it could still be bad and he can extend it or close at that time. So we just opted to not put any time frame in here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Amanda. And we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone would like to speak to this item? I think we're more familiar with the concept of the schools doing it, but they have a certain amount of hours they have to go, so that's, I think that's why they have a set time. Because they can't come in. We could come in at noon and still
That's what I wondered.
be good, so.
We just know how much it pains Jimmy to call off work.
All right, we will close the public hearing. And any further questions or discussion? And we'll accept a motion to approve.
So made.
Second? Either one of us.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Resolution number 2023-13, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa designating signers for investment and certificates of deposit.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. As the investment officer for the City of Nixa, it's my job to try to get the most bang for our buck in our investments. So I've been looking at CD rates. I was able to solicit CD rates from 8 different banks within the City of Nixa. and found that the CD rates that were offered would generate quite a bit more revenue for us than what we're currently getting in our money market accounts. As you know, CDs tie up the money. They're not liquid, so I didn't want to invest all of our money in the CD. So what I did was I took some of the ARPA money that we have set aside, and then the funds that we have set aside that are labeled miscellaneous savings and future project savings. So those are monies we don't use. I felt comfortable with investing those. Blue Current had the best rate at 4.76%, but they had a cap of $3 million, so I put the ARPA money in that CD. And then the savings accounts, the $16,045,642.83, we put in to Simmons Bank for a 9-month CD. The investment policy grants me the authority to set up these accounts, but the banks require council action to designate signers. So that's what this resolution is to designate myself and Rebecca Coffey as signers on these CDs. And these CDs do require 2 signatures to withdraw the funds. So I'll answer any questions you have about that.
Any questions? Thank you, Jennifer. And we will open up the public hearing. And close the public hearing. Remember when we had like a whole huge budget line item where we used to just be interest that we would receive? We haven't had that for a long time.
Yeah, the interest rates are getting better, but not pre-COVID yet, but this will help.
Any other questions or discussion?
Nope.
I will accept the motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
And Sean, Jared and Sean, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Resolution number 2023-14, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa accepting the bid of Evoqua Water Technologies LLC for the purchase and installation of bioxide tanks for the lift station located at Bentwater and Bluebird subdivisions project, and authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract for the same.
Mayor and council, luckily I get to end my evening bringing one to you that is under budget and on time.
Yay.
This is a proposed bid award to Evoqua Water Technologies for bioxide tank replacement at 2 of our lift station facilities, one at Bentwater and one at Bluebird Hills. Bioxide is a chemical that is injected at the lift station to help with odor control on the sewer collection system. This is an item that was budgeted as a CIP for this year for $125,000. Evoqua came in with a bid of $113,433. They are our vendor for our bioxide chemical. We have a strong working relationship with them, and we do recommend approval as presented.
Any questions?
Can we get more of that for the treatment plant too?
I'm sorry?
More of that for the treatment plant.
Yeah. That would be a big bioxide tank.
Strong down there lately, yeah. Any other questions? Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Any other discussion or questions on this item? I will accept a motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Everybody likes bioxide.
Resolution number 2023-15, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a settlement participation form to enable the city to participate in a national opioid settlement agreement.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Before you this evening to present the third of these that we've engaged in as a city. And as the title indicates, this is a resolution authorizing the city administrator to execute a settlement participation agreement. And this is a result of the ongoing national opioid litigation that's been going on for some time now. The city's previously entered into 2 of these. And my understanding is we've been receiving funds from those settlements. This is the third, and it involves Teva, Allergen, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart. And the way that these work, or have worked in the past, and the way that this works, the one presented to you this evening works, is the attorneys general of the several states that are involved in this litigation, they have to get a certain amount of political subdivision participation in the actual settlement for the settlement to be effective. And so what they do is they send out these participation forms requesting the political subdivisions of the state of Missouri to sign on so that we can get the sufficient number of participation to qualify for the settlement. When that occurs, the state receives funds, but then also a portion of those funds are set aside to provide to the political subdivisions. So, as I've said, this is the third one that I presented to the council. We approved the previous two. My understanding is we have been receiving funds from those. So, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this. Otherwise, staff recommends approval.
Any questions? Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve.
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go. One more.
Resolution number 2023-16, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the electric energy cost adjustment pursuant to Section 22-310 of the Nixa City Code.
This resolution would authorize the city administrator to implement the 2023 energy cost adjustment under Section 22-310H of the electric rate ordinance. The current ordinance sets forth the formula based on cost data to figure annual energy cost adjustment that may be applied to customer bills in the following year, which we discussed a little while ago, and we're looking at you have a proposal to change that date. Any adjustment to be applied to customer bills must be approved by City Council through resolution. 2022 was a good year for us, and resulting in savings of approximately 0.6 of a cent per each kilowatt hour purchased. The formula computation, there's a mistake on that sheet in front of you. There should be a 0 on 2022 kilowatt energy cost. It should be 0.0506.
Okay.
Compared to 5.73 cents, which is the base year of 2021, which provides for a savings of 6.7 tenths of a cent. So, in other words, it would be an energy cost adjustment. This energy cost adjustment, if approved, would lessen the rate per kilowatt hour rate by 0.6 cents. So, if approved, what we would be in line to set this up for April and later billing. Obviously, we wouldn't retroactive that back and start again, so.
Any questions? Was my rough math about 10% less, or about 10% per kilowatt hour?
Yeah.
That's very good.
Probably real close to that.
Does this affect out years with the rate? So, because we have a increase set every year for the next 3-4 years, however many years we approved it for?
Like a separate line item.
Yeah,
It
it's
used to
like-
be on your bill like called a fuel cost adjustment. It'll be a separate line item as like a credit. So it's
Right.
But so
rate.
for in 2023, do we compare it to 0.0506, or do we compare it to 0.0581, or whatever the increased amount is for next year's expected amount in the ordinance?
The 0.0573 is the base.
Okay.
That we'll use.
That base increases each year?
Through that 5-year ordinance that we have, yes.
Okay.
That's the way that it was adopted, yes.
Any other questions? Besides my really nerdy math ones. Thank you, Doug. And I'll open up the public hearing. on this item? And close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussion? So the ice storm thing, Doug, was 2021, right? Where we had the big loss due to the ice storm?
2.1 million or something?
Yes, that's correct.
So we didn't have this in place then, so we didn't charge a positive take back where we would make people pay for the overage of what the cost was in that year. We just ate that. Yeah. Okay.
Now, because that's in the year where we established the base.
The base was a little higher than, right.
Well, we removed that. So in other words, we took actual cost, including that additional cost. We removed that 2.1 something million dollars as an anomaly and used what would have normally taken place in an average year. And that's how we established the 5.73.
Okay. Did I close the public hearing, or did I just talk through?
Yeah, you can just
Okay.
talk through.
All right. Any other discussion? I'll accept the motion to approve.
So made.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. All right, move on to our liaison reports. Lucas.
We've been waiting so long for this.
I know.
Anticipation, you guys have been building for this.
Better be good.
Okay. Poor Jennifer and Amanda don't know what's in store for them right now. No, so, good evening, thank you for your time. Why is that moving already? That should not be moving. All right, so I've had the pleasure of being the Human Resource and Finance Liaison for almost 2 years now. And I say it's a pleasure because Jennifer and Amanda don't really require much of me at all, if anything. So it's definitely made my job easy because they don't have a lot that they bring to me. But I did enjoy the time I got to spend to learn more about their departments. And I hopefully address some of their concerns with this and also highlight some of the things that they're doing well. So let's get started. So Human Resources, first of all, the Director of Human Resources, let me scoot up to this because it's going to be loud, is Amanda Hunsucker. Amanda prides herself in knowing every employee on some personal level, and she says that if she would see them out in public somewhere, then she would know them by name. It's pretty impressive for the amount of employees that we have. She also likes to visit with the different departments, so she is visible and the employees will feel that they're comfortable coming to her with their needs. And Jared, you're going to love this, based off our conversation earlier. What is human resources? The simple answer would be, well, it's very complex, but the simple answer is going to be human resources works with every department to help them follow policies and procedures and to help them hire the staff they need. The city's HR department is made up of 2 employees, Amanda and Christina. In April of 2022, Amanda hired Christina as the Human Resource Administrative Assistant. And Amanda says that she could not have made it through the new time clock transition without Christina. So currently, the city employs 143 full-time employees, but I imagine that number's changed since our conversation. We do have budgeted 152. When asking about part-time employees, we typically throughout the year have anywhere from 35 to 40, depending on the season. The biggest challenge is hiring and retaining employees. In 2019, we hired 17 employees, and we had 17 employees leave. In 2020, we hired 31, but we had 18 leave. In 2021, we hired 36 and had 31 leave. And in 2022, we hired 22, and we had 27 that left.
Oh, come on.
With the current labor market, increased demand on wages, and our current budgeted constraints, getting qualified employees to even apply has been difficult due to our current salary ranges. Although Amanda's been doing the best she can with the resources that are available to her, my ask is that council and staff work to help find alternative ways to recruit and retain employees. And moving on to finance. So congratulations, first of all, on the awards. I wish I would have known that. I could have included that into here. That would have been nice, but super excited about that. There's a lot that goes into finance. So let's meet the team to start off with. We have the Director of Finance, obviously, is Jennifer Evans. Let me speed that up a little bit for you. We have Lori Wilkerson, who's the leading accounting clerk. We have Stephanie Ewing, which I think she's still here. Yep, purchasing coordinator. We have Jenny Gerhauser, did I say that right? Accounting clerk. Lisa Moore, who's an accounting clerk, and Autumn Manning, who's also an accounting clerk. So what does the finance team do? The short answer is that they handle the city's financial processes and controls. This is just to name a few of them: accounts payable, accounts receivables, manage grants, purchasing, auditing, bids, contracts, tax reporting, general ledger, bank statements, office supplies, invoicing, and deposits. Which that all leads to the main thing that they manage, and that's our budget. Just throw that away. So tonight's topics for finance are going to be steps to make purchase, so the purchasing flow chart, what is ERP and what will it do, and budget process. So the steps to the purchasing is a purchasing flow chart. So basically, up at the top, I don't know if you can read that from back there or not, but it says, I have approval to buy something. What do I do? So Jimmy has approval to buy something. What's he going to do? Well, he's going to first see if it's budgeted. And if it's not, he's going to stop and he's going to contact the finance department and for budget amendments, which we tend to get a lot of those sent lately. But if it is budgeted, then we're just going to find out how much the total purchase cost is. If it's from $1,000 to $2,499.99, they're able to place the order and put their name on it. If it is between $2,500 and $4,999.99, then they have to contact the purchasing department for a PO. If it's between $5,000 and $9,999.99, they have to submit 3 bids to purchasing. And then if it's over $10,000, they have to contact purchasing for a formal bid process. Once those things happen, then it goes to the purchase order is generated. The purchasing department is to gather the needed signatures, and then they can place the order and include that on the PO. So what happens once if the item is delivered, the invoices or receipts are forwarded to the accounts payable receiving department with 1 signature on it. So the person receiving has to sign it. And then if the item is picked up, then the invoice has to be forwarded to the accounts payable team. But it's going to require 2 signatures, one for the person picking it up and one for the one that's going to receive it once it gets here. And then I can't read that from up here, so I did bring it up on my computer. So once all invoices are to be mailed directly to the accounts payable by the vendors. They will be forwarded to the department head for signature if no PO is required. And once all required signatures have been gathered, payment will be processed. So when we talk, Brian, your question earlier about, it seems like we have a lot of budget amendments because of purchases things that were completed in '22 but not paid for. Some of the processes is that we're probably waiting on invoices from the vendors in the proper format to get that done. Is that correct, Jennifer? There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of steps, and you'll see later what those steps actually cost us every time we write a check. So going into ERP, what is ERP? It is Enterprise Resource Planning. It is the integrated management of main business processes, often in real time, and mediated by software and technology, usually referred to as a category of business management software. So we have that coming, by the way. And what will it do? It will help improve our efficiencies and will streamline our processes. It will house all of our finance applications. It has the modules for budget, utility billing, HR and payroll, work orders and inventory, community development, such as building permits, business licenses, etc. And then it also has a payment card process that will allow for kiosks to collect payments. The implementation and timeline of our ERP is that the data extractions have already been made, so we're already in process of that. BSNA will be at City Hall in April to work through all the details. They'll be back in June to launch the program, and they will be on site for 7 weeks to help train and work through any challenges that may arise. And now we're into the budget process. So planning for budget starts in July and August. Jennifer sends out worksheets to the department directors and superintendents. For operational personnel requests are then made. Capital budgets are then submitted. And then meetings are held with staff. Every line item that is entered, they enter every line item and they work through each item to determine what items we're going to be able to accomplish for that next year. Jimmy and Jennifer then work through the entire budget and make it where it's presentable to council. Council then gives their feedback and suggested changes, if any, and then if changes are requested, Jennifer reworks the numbers and brings it back to the council at the next meeting. And then once the budget is complete, council then votes to approve it. All sounds real simple, doesn't it? It does take a lot of time, a lot of energy, and I think we do a great job with working through the budget, so basically, some interesting facts that kind of tie these three things together is one, the city of Nixa processes 180-plus invoices on average per week. That equates out to on average 540 signatures every single week. The city of Nixa currently has 1,143 active vendors. The active vendor records must be kept up to date with information such as W-9 forms, certificates of insurance, remittance, addresses, and so forth. So this is where it's interesting. The average cost to print a check, not the actual cost of the check or anything like that, but the time and effort involved to get to the point where we're printing the check cost us about $150. So tracking down all the signatures, writing the PO, going through the processes, all that gathered up on average costs us about $150. And as a government entity, the city of Nixa is required to maintain precise record keeping. The city must be able to account for every taxpayer dollar, which we know our team does that because of the awards that they just won, that they got recognized for tonight. So, that being said, last but not least, Jennifer wants everyone to know that we have grown a lot as a city, and the workload has grown with it. Processes take time, and following policies and procedures are in place to help expedite those processes. They are also in place to help protect not only the city, but all the employees of the city as well. Any questions?
I do have a question about the ERP system, and I can't remember if I've actually asked you this before or not, but does it come with workflow solutions that will complement the processes that we currently have in place?
So that's part of what they do when they come on site is they work through our current workflows and they talk through that process with us and they say, because we don't know what their system does, so they can help us to say, well, we can set it up to do it your way, but here's how our system does it to help you improve that process. And so they'll be here for 3 days in April to walk through every single workflow and process to help us maximize their ERP system and work it into how we do things and maybe tweak some of that. But yes, there are workflow steps especially in the purchasing process that is now going to be automated within the system. You know, a requisition can be entered in the system and it will route it to the correct next person to sign off on it, which will then route it to the purchasing department. So there's less emailing of, Adobe documents and things like that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And that'll make the process easier to audit after the fact if you needed to go back and look and see.
Yes.
Okay, cool, thank you.
That's the goal, is to get everything in the same system so we don't have external things happening. It's all within the system to create an audit trail.
Now, is all the data that's stored in that, is that here or?
It's in the cloud.
It'll be cloud-based.
Fantastic. I like the cloud.
I'm pro cloud myself.
I figured you probably were.
Anything else?
Perfect.
Any other questions?
Oh, God.
Well, I think we assigned Sean McGall future PowerPoints that get presented to council. He did a beautiful job on that.
Less transitions, please.
Yeah. All right, that is our agenda for this evening. Anything else from staff?
Just remember to vote.
Vote. Yes, the election is
I would like to point out,
Get out.
the PAFR award, yes, the finance department did have a lot to do with that, but the communications department also had a great deal to do with producing the PAFR with our graphic designer intern, and then Drew worked a lot on that as well. So he deserves recognition as well for the PAFR award. Thank you, Drew.
I'll remind you guys, the Easter egg hunt is April 8th, starting at 9:30. Hope to see you there. Jared, sorry, we don't have an age group for you.
We don't have what?
An age group for you to find eggs, but come watch the kids.
Oh, I'll find egg.
Anything else from council? When's your take back?
Drug take back is going to be April 22nd.
22nd. Ah.
So, it's at Alps Pharmacy this year, over in the Crimson Plaza where Family Pharmacy used to be. So, 10 to 2.
All right.
Any update on the park? You were hoping we didn't ask that, didn't you? I know the rain might have.
Yeah, they are very close to finishing the equipment install. They got the roof on the main structure today. I think they've got a couple little finalized pieces that way, and they moved basically to a punch list. I think they got some swings to install, but everything else from there is a punch list item. And so they're very, very close with that one. They'll close off a little bit of concrete work, and then we're waiting to hear from the installers of the pour-in-place, which is the rubberized surface. And so I'm hoping they've got a meeting, or our contact with Cunningham has a meeting with them tomorrow, and so hoping to have a date after that on when they'll be here to finish it out. So we're getting very close.
Cool.
An exact date I don't have.
Well, I would like to compliment the guys that are working on it, because I went over to take a look at it, and they stopped and talked to me and kind of explained what they were doing and stuff, and they were really, really nice people, so.
Good.
That's why they're more behind now.
That's probably, so my fault.
It's his fault.
My
no.
bad.
It really has been the rain has really been a big issue. They only got a couple days of work in last week with rain, and so they did work through the weekend. He wants to be out of here by the end of the week. So
How did
the
the drainage
install
go
of the
during the
equipment will
rain?
be there.
How did the drainage go during the rain? Did it do well?
The drainage is doing really well through there. There's also drainage in the playground itself now, so that's all doing really well. So they got the final bit of gravel installed into the playground, which is the base surfacing, and so now they've been able to really work because they don't have to worry about as much mud.
Yay.
And so that has really helped.
Good.
Fantastic.
All right, anything else? I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.